Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 578 for the 10th of November 2019. Richard Saunders here with you from Sydney, Australia. Coming up on the Skeptic Zone this week, part 3 of the SciCon interviews with Rob Palmer. And thank you very much to Rob for taking the time out during SciCon to do these interviews so we could all enjoy hearing from various people and speakers who were there. Following that, I talked to Dr. Steve Roberts, a very long-time member of the skeptical community here in Australia. Now, Dr. Steve used to work as a code breaker, and he has in his possession a wonderful bit of kit, a wonderful bit of machinery called the M209 cipher machine from World War II. And this is what the Americans used while the Germans were using the famous Enigma. The Americans were using the M209. And I got to use one when visiting Steve Roberts. In fact, he bought his particular one from Dr. Simon Singh, the famous British skeptic and brilliant author. Anyway, a little bit of a variation this week in the Skeptic Zone as we look at the M209 cipher machine. Following that, it's Tim Mendham, the editor of The Skeptic, the journal from Australian Skeptics, with part 1 of a new series called The Hole in the Pole. And this is all about people who think the Earth is hollow. Not flat. No, not flat. The Earth is obviously a globe, but it's hollow inside. Then to round off the show, we chat to Michelle Bickersma from the Vic Skeptics about some of the guests coming along to Skepticon 2019, a very short few weeks away. International and local speakers galore. Now, you might remember on last week's episode we spoke to Michael Marshall about moves in the UK to put another nail in the coffin of homeopathy. I mean, homeopathy it's the corpse that keeps on reanimating. It's dead. It's not quite buried, though. I mean, it was never alive. You can't kill something that was never alive. But in the past week, more information has come to light, and I'll link to this in the show notes, where some reporters went to visit various homeopaths with sneaky cameras, something you can't do in Australia anymore. You can't wear a hidden recording device, a hidden camera, and bust people. In the old days, years ago, and even members of Australian Skeptics were involved with some similar sort of thing, visiting naturopaths with hidden cameras to hear them give outrageous advice. Well, in the UK, you still can. And various reporters went undercover to seek the advice of homeopaths when it came to vaccination. And it's a disgrace that these homeopaths, it's no surprise, it's fully expected, but it's a disgrace that they would be telling people not to vaccinate their children, and vaccination leads to autism and all the conspiratorial twaddle we've heard. But these homeopaths, of course, believe it lock, stock, and barrel. Anyway, I'll link to that story in the show notes. But now it's time for me to run downstairs and have some nice cheddar cheese with chili. Yes, cheddar cheese with chili. And maybe a little bit of chocolate. What do you think? While I do that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone.
Hi, this is Rob Palmer. I write for the Skeptical Inquirer as the well-known skeptic, and I'm also on the Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia team. You may have also heard one of the promos I produced for the Guerrilla Skeptics played right here on the Skeptic Zone. This week I'm bringing you the third part of my interview series from SciCon 2019 in Las Vegas, Nevada. I talk with former ghost hunter turned legitimate paranormal investigator Kenny Biddle, science mom and Point of Inquiry co-host Kavan Senapathy, a Wikipedia editor who is my Gorilla Skeptic teammate, Brandy, along with her son, Aiden, and a Las Vegas STEM student, Daniel Spangler. I ran into Kenny Biddle, who was the second half of the team that did the Investigators Workshop. So let me ask him about his experience giving that presentation at SciCon. First off, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kenny Biddle. I introduced myself.
And what are you known for?
I actually do paranormal investigations, pretty much from a scientific and skeptical point of view.
I heard a rumor that you were once a ghost hunter and used to believe in them.
Yes, in the early 90s, I was a ghost hunter. I believed in everything. Ghosts and Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, UFOs. I believed all of it.
So they always say people like that aren't very intelligent, but here you are on the other side of the fence. Did you get like a lot more brain matter or something?
It was the curiosity, because I had always heard about the skeptics, and when you're a diehard ghost hunter, skeptics are like the evil people. They were the arch nemesis.
Oh, because we are.
Yes. But I reached out to a few, in particular, Ben Rafford. He was the first person that I really interacted with.
I think I know him.
I kind of know him too, But, yeah.
He's an editor, amongst other things, but he's an editor for Skeptical Inquirer magazine, by the way, which we both write for.
Yes, our editors.
So when we write an article before you see it, yeah, Ben's gone over it.
So, yeah, that was... I talked to him for a little bit. I sent him some things that I had. He gave me explanations. He really took the time to break it down for me, and he was not mean. So he wasn't what I thought a skeptic was. And it changed my opinion of skeptics and made me want to learn more about what they do.
That's impressive. I wrote your Wikipedia article and never even came across that tidbit. That wasn't written down anywhere. Cool.
It was really good. And then I discovered more stuff from not only Ben, but Joe Nickel, and then like Sharon Hill. I talked to her for a long time and actually worked on some projects with her.
And what's the name of her podcast? 15 Credibility Street, which is defunct now, actually.
Right. Yeah. She doesn't do it anymore. Yeah. But I had helped with some of her stuff. I've written part of a chapter for Ben Rafford's new book, his one book about investigating ghosts. So I've had my hand in a few things since then, and this is my third year presenting at SciCon.
Wow! So
I feel actually like honored and humbled that I keep getting asked back.
Very nice. So you're 1 year ahead of me, but I'm just in the Sunday papers, and we're not asked. We have to fight for the spot. So
fight for it, damn it!
It's not quite the same thing. So okay, they have bottles of wine here engraved with the names of all the speakers on it. Yes. But not the Sunday paper speakers. Just saying. So
I'm sorry, I have no comment on that because I have one with my name on it.
You do. I saw it.
Which I rearranged and put right in front so everybody could see.
Very good. All right, Kenny. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
Well, I wandered into the SciCon book sale room, and I found yet another speaker for the conference. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, this is Coven Synopathy.
And where may the listeners to the Skeptic Zone know your voice from?
They might know my voice from the Point of Inquiry podcast, or they may know my work writing for a slew of organizations, including the one that I co-founded, SciMoms.com.
And also a little documentary regarding SciMoms?
Yeah, actually SciMoms was a shoot-off project from the Science Moms documentary. It's a 30-minute documentary that came out in 2017, and it follows me and 4 other science moms. 3 of them are scientists, 2 of us are writers/journalists, communicators, but it takes us, the documentary takes the viewers through our sort of quest to figure out how to parent our kids with evidence whenever possible, and it covers some of the most fraught current issues when it comes to parenting, including vaccines, homeopathy, and GMOs, and of course Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh, we all love her.
But you can actually get it for free on YouTube. It's called Science Moms. Moms, and we cover a lot more the themes on SciMoms.com are quite similar to Science Moms, but we just cover so much more subject matter on our website.
I can highly recommend the documentary. I saw the screening at the SciCon that Kevin mentioned, and I actually went home and wrote a Wikipedia article for it. So
Yes.
You can look it up. So what's your presentation here going to be about?
My presentation is on the overblown breast is best mantra.
Ooh.
And breast is best is the slogan surrounding the idea that all infants across the board should be exclusively breastfed. That means no other liquids for the first 6 months of life, starting immediately from birth until the time of introducing complementary foods. And it's quite a popular idea, and there's hospital policy and maternity ward policy around the world based on this idea. So I'm going to break down the science of it, some of the misconceptions, and eventually I'm going to make a case for fully informed choice for parents when it comes to how they feed their babies.
Great, I'm looking forward to it. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Kevin. So it's the last day of the conference, and I'm talking to a new Guerrilla Skeptics on Wikipedia editor who came to her very first SciCon, and she's with her son. Could you guys introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Brandy.
Hi, my name is Aiden.
And why did you decide to come to this conference?
Well, I've been listening to skeptical podcasts for many, many years and decided I wanted to get involved somehow. And I heard about the conference and it sounded really interesting. A lot of really interesting speakers. And I dragged my son along because he's been a fan of Brian Greene since he was in elementary school.
Oh, so Aiden, so what did you think of his presentation?
It was really great.
When did you stop following it? Because I stopped following it when he got to the hologram. That the universe is actually a hologram. It's like,
That's
what?
actually like when I really started like getting it in. Because like black holes have always been like a cool subject that I've always been interested in. The thought of like something being so dense and heavy that it just collapses in on itself and can trap anything in it. It's always fascinated me.
That was amazing. Tell them about the little artifact that they had that described.
They had like a tiny little marble. It was supposed to represent the size of the Earth if it was a black hole.
Yeah, that was like it drew gasps from everybody. And then Einstein didn't believe in black holes because he said there was no way that could possibly happen. But now we know there is. Fascinating. Well, so, do you think you're going to come back next year?
Yeah, and I was happy to see that my son was interested in all the talks that he saw today, not just in Brian Greene, and he's agreed to come with me again sometime.
Fantastic. Very glad to hear that. Okay, so we'll be looking forward to seeing you next year. All right, so I've come to 2 previous SciCons. This is my 3rd in a row, and this is the first time I've experienced what is going on at this one, which is that a nearby school has sent some students to SciCon to participate in the conference. And I just ran into one of them, so I wanted to get some information. Like, what's your name?
Daniel Spangler,
And what's the school you come from?
Coral Academy of Science, Las Vegas.
Okay, is that nearby?
It's in Henderson, so it's like probably 30 minutes away from.
Oh, not too bad. And so how did you find out that this was an available thing to do and come to the conference? And by the way, this is being paid by donations by conference attendees and others who helped with the raising money.
It was really like out of the blue. It was like 2 days ago that all the teachers got an email and they recommended some students to go to this.
Just 2 days ago?
Yeah. And they gave me the permission slip on Thursday, and it just looked really interesting, so I got it signed.
So did everyone have the option to sign up, and it was just a number, or how'd that go? Do you remember?
The teachers were supposed to recommend 2 students in each class. So it was like, I guess you could say that top.
What criteria was it? People who are great in science, or what do you think?
Yeah, pay attention, just good students overall.
Oh, cool. So what made you want to come?
I've never been to like one of these types of meetings, and I just thought it'd be really interesting to go and get different viewpoints on everything.
Do you know all the other people you've come with? Is it a small school? Or?
Yeah, it's pretty small. There's like 100 people in my class.
Oh, and I heard also that some people from here went to the school to do presentations because there's only a limited number that they could have come here. Did you attend any of those?
No, I
Okay,
didn't.
so it wasn't everyone at the school.
Oh, actually.
Yeah?
There was a presentation in my history class about, I forgot his name. He does like he used to do ghost hunting things.
Kenny Biddle?
Yeah.
Kenny Biddle gave that presentation. Oh, so you saw that one. Okay.
Yeah. And it was really interesting how like he just broke down ghosts and was able to explain everything.
Did you believe in them before? Do you not now? Did it change your mind at all?
I didn't believe in them before, but now I definitely don't because
okay, he's going to be glad
he did
He is good. Yes, I know him personally, and he worked in the industry thinking there were ghosts, trying to prove there were ghosts for a long time, and came to the conclusion, no, this is all bull. Very good. All right, well, so thanks for doing this, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.
That was the final part of my interview series from PsyCon 2019. I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I enjoyed doing those interviews. I'm about to publish an article interviewing first-time PsyCon attendees and speakers. Follow me on Facebook so you don't miss it and other related articles published in my Skeptical Inquirer online column. Links to my column and to my Facebook page are in the show notes. Until next time, this is Rob Palmer.
Folks, I've met so many interesting people during my time in the skeptical movement.
And then there was Steve Roberts.
And then there was Dr. Steve Roberts. But years ago, Dr. Steve, you bought me a nice little present, the Code Book by Simon Singh. And I thought, oh, that's nice. And I read it and my jaw dropped because I understood Enigma. And I thought, what an amazing man Simon Singh is to write a book in such a way that someone like me can understand. And you... And we've got it right here in front of us, folks. You bought this from Simon Singh. Mm-hmm. It's a code machine like Enigma, well, you know, sort of, from World War II. It's the M209.
That's it.
The M209 cipher machine as used by the American Army in World War II. It's amazing. We're just looking at it right now.
Well, I would recommend the Code Book by Simon Singh.
Me too.
There are lots and lots of awful books about codes and ciphers out there, but Simon Singh has written a really, really good book. He's got 10 chapters, and the codes start from extremely elementary to extremely complicated, and you can actually work through it, and he gives examples, and the last 2 chapters are quite difficult, and there was a prize for cracking the last puzzle, which somebody won. But he does explain it extremely well. He's a very talented author.
Extremely well. Yeah. It's credit to Simon Singh for his wonderful work. But look at this. I know I say look at this. The audience can't look at this, but...
Well, I'll have to look at some other one.
Have a look at...
You check the wheel there.
Setting the wheel, right.
And then you turn the handle.
Yeah. And out pops another letter.
That's right.
But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... 6 rotors.
Yep.
You set those to a particular pattern. At the moment, it's PNPDPN. Okay.
That's it.
So you have got that pattern. Your counterpart who's receiving the final message will have that, and he decodes it.
And the wheels have pins on them, and you have to set the pins the same at both ends.
Wow.
The great advantage with this thing is that it's all mechanical, so unlike the Enigma, which lights up, it needs an electric current to work, and it lights up a little light behind the letter if the bulb blows while you're stuck, and if you haven't got a battery, you're totally stuck. But this thing, the M209, is entirely mechanical. It's made by the company that used to make typewriters.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
We've opened it up so we can look at the workings of this. It's completely mechanical. It's exquisitely made.
The engineering for 1942 is exquisite.
Yeah. Now, what's this little counter here mean?
That's the letter counter. It says 603 at the moment. If I incipher a letter, 604. That says how far you've got in the sequence of letters. So you can move that on from the initial setting. And you must never encipher with the same setting twice, so you always move it on, and the other end understands that.
So in the code world, how good was this code machine in World War II? Was it secure enough, or was it cracked eventually?
It's crackable, but it's good enough for a battle. It'll take a day or so to crack the messages, and that's
all you need.
That's plenty secure enough while you're being shot at.
Yeah.
And you can also change the setting entirely. You can move all these pins with a special tool, and you can move all the lugs with the tool. So if you have to abandon the machine, you can actually completely and reliably destroy the setting that it had in it. Now, unlike the Enigma, that had 6 wheels that had wiring in them. And although you can smash them up, you can recover the bits and work out what the wiring was. And there were only 6 wheels. Everybody had these 6 wheels. So once you know the pattern in those 6 wheels, you're a long way ahead towards solving it. With this thing, you can set the pattern to anything you like and destroy it, and that pattern may never recur again.
It's fascinating. I mean, to look into this thing is fascinating. It's so beautifully made. But to think this was used probably or conceivably in battle during World War II to send important messages. I asked Steve to put in the message now, please send more cheese, because we're eating some nice cheese, and they send more cheese.
It comes out looking like gibberish.
So the message coming out on the other end, on a ticker tape,
it looks
for example, CTWPQQXNDP, just gibberish.
Well, the other guy would set his machine up and whack those letters in, and out on his tape would come SEND space MORE cheese.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, look at that.
We'll send more cheese.
Yeah,
what does that mean?
What a good idea. Do you want it on a silver tray or just in the packet?
And it's so compact. I can't believe how small this is.
Shut the lid as it would be. The paper tape is included in it.
Yeah,
and it's about 7 inches by 5 inches by 4 inches.
It's not that big,
and weighs about 1 kilogram.
Yeah,
and you can stick it in a soldier's battle pack with all the other stuff he's got with his rations and whatnot, and barge off into battle with it. And they made thousands of these. And they sell for about $5,000 on eBay. But the Enigma sell for like $100,000 because there's not many of them, and they have that cachet of being cute. But the Enigma was a far worse machine cryptographically. It was much easier to crack
than this.
This is much more secure than the Enigma.
Really?
Yeah. Well, the Enigma, you've only got 6 rotors, and we knew what the 6 rotors were. We'd recovered enough. And you just try all the settings. They had a machine that just tried all the settings. There's only 17,000 settings you can really do, which seemed like a lot at the time, but now, for example, 17,000 settings will be absolutely nothing. 17 trillion will actually still not be much of a headache. But they just tried all the settings until one fell out. And the thing is, you had to break the messages within hours, or there'd be no use.
Yeah.
And this was done in Bletchley Park. This was, they were broken within hours, and the message would have got out, and the rest of the day's traffic would be read. And then they'd change the settings again in the morning. That would start all over again. But the Germans would send a weather message at 5 in the morning, and there was obviously great interest in breaking that one, because that would give you the...
Is it an urban myth, or was it artistic license in the movie, The Imitation Game?
Yeah.
One of the clues they had to breaking it was Heil Hitler, because that was repeated.
Yeah, no, almost. Every message ended HH for Heil Hitler. Every Morse message ended HH. And if the operative failed to send HH, the other end would say, have you forgotten something? Is it not good enough? No, what they would do, they'd send a setting which was 3 letters, and that's where the 3 rotors were on the Enigma. Yeah. And they'd send that twice, so it would start, like LMN, LMN, that was where the 3 rotors were positioned. So when you get the message, in the first 6 letters, numbers 4, 5 and 6 are a copy of numbers 1, 2 and 3. Wow. The same letter under there, so you try all the settings until you get a result that gives you 4, 5 and 6 the same as 1, 2 and 3, and that gives you the rotor positions. Then you just read it after that, But this was done in enormous haste with enormous urgency. Then the settings was issued. Then, of course, there was a problem that you couldn't let the Germans know you were reading the codes, so they had to...
Well, that was in the Imitation Game, the movie, one of the problems they had. We can't let on we've broken the code, otherwise they'd scrap the whole system.
That was a problem. It was said that Churchill knew about the bombing of Coventry beforehand. There's 2 answers to that. Well, the truth is he didn't know. But if he had known that the Germans were going to go and bomb Coventry, he would not have let on, because if you send aeroplanes to intercept the bombers, the Germans think, how did they know that? Yeah. And the whole goose that lays the golden egg will be killed. Yeah. And so you had to be sort of careful with the intelligence. But we got some things out of it in the Second World War. It was well worth doing. It's said that the war changed because of that. That's a bit of artistic license, I think.
Well, that's fine. I mean, to make it an enjoyable movie. But, folks, I am looking, and there it is, at a World War II coding machine, converter M209B.
That's what we have
If you look that up on the internet, you can see all about that.
If you look up M for mother, M209, you'll see diagrams and pictures of the machine and pages on how it works and everything. Yeah. And I've got a real one here.
You've got a real one there, and it's just it's still, after all these years, it's pushing 70 years old or whatever it is. It looks like it was made yesterday.
Still in perfect condition. Simon Singh looked after it. It's been oiled well and it works, perfectly. So very. I bought this at auction from London. I'm just pleased to own it because it's so beautiful.
It's fantastic. Folks, what I'll do is I'll link in this week's show notes to where you can buy the code book by Simon Singh, and if you're at all interested in ciphers and codes and how they developed, I couldn't recommend this book highly enough. Oh, now you're putting in a new code. What is it? Let's have some more wine, I think you're putting in.
More wine. That's a good idea. Crash. Yeah, it was easy to destroy. You just set all the pins to the left and you've destroyed the setting. Then you just leave it behind. The Germans can find it. They haven't already, but without the pin set properly. Yeah. It's just beautiful. Mass-produced. They made 140,000 of them. And every soldier had one. And actually, later machines, it said that the victors write the history books. Well, actually, cipher machines after the war were developed from this thing, not from the Enigma. The logic of cipher machines. I've worked in this field, and actually the design of this was influential in the design of later machines. But the Enigma sort of moved on and died. It was too hard to use, too unreliable.
And it's got the cred, hasn't it? It's got the
Enigma has the cred.
The mythology.
The mythology, yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah. Oh well.
The wine has arrived. So cheers, Steve, and thanks very much.
Yep. Cheers.
This is NASA. I see a flat Earth, but we should lie to everybody about it and say it's round. 10-4.
Maximum Fun brings you the latest podcast, an expose on the flat Earth.
I want to take advantage of humankind and make them believe a lie so that they will trust us with the government.
It's all an elaborate lie, and when you get on a plane, they purposefully fly you farther than you need to go.
It's disgusting. It needs to be stopped. And if you listen to Ono, Ross, and Carrie, we will tell you the truth behind the lies.
Just kidding.
No, we won't do that. We will just tell you the truth behind the truth, because what we do is we look at extraordinary claims.
That's right. We've gone undercover with alternative medical treatments, fringe religious groups, fringe science claims, the spiritual, paranormal. We're there to check it out and let you know what happens.
Is the Queen Mary haunted? I don't know. Find out.
We show up, we make friends, we learn what happens when you ask questions, and we tell you all about it.
And we get all that funky stuff done to us.
It's Oh No, Ross and Carrie
at MaximumFun.org.
Hi, my name's Tim Mendham. I'm the Executive Officer for Australian Skeptics, and I'm also editor of the Skeptic magazine. And I'd like to cover an article that we ran in the Skeptic magazine some time ago, actually, in March 2018, which is volume 38, number 1. And this article is about the hole in the pole, or the hole in the pole. This will be part 1 of a number of presentations on this, because it's a pretty lengthy article, so I don't want to bog you down with all of it in one go. But basically, article was looking at secret entranceways to the hollow earth, and these have been proposed for centuries, so I want to look down and perhaps go down one of those holes or two. Now, virtually every religion refers to a subterranean world which is variously an afterlife, like hell, purgatory, or the Elysian fields, or a secret place where other civilizations do their business. The Greeks had Hades, the Jews Sheol, the Tibetan Buddhists have Shambhala, the Nordic people have Svartalfam, so I can't pronounce that word, never mind. The Hindu Patala, and of course the Christians have hell. The concept has been elaborated upon in some of the world's great literature. The legend of Orpheus's trip to retrieve his lost love Eurydice, Dante's Inferno, the Hindu Ramayana, Casanova had a go with his Icosamenon, the story of a brother and sister who fall into the earth and discover the subterranean utopia of the Megamicros, a race of multicoloured hermaphroditic dwarves. On the more popular level, Jules Verne's Journey to the Centre of the Earth was about an underground cavernous world, not a hollow earth, and H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness was the discovery of the underground remnants of an ancient alien civilization in Antarctica, full of horrors too horrible to recount. Tarzan author Edgar Rice Burroughs wrote a 7-novel series about Pellucidar, a prehistoric world hundreds of miles beneath the surface. The first volume was entitled At the Earth's Core, and Tarzan himself makes a visit in one of the books. There's a plethora of places below us. The problem has been how to get there. Strictly speaking, this shouldn't be a problem, as there are numerous caverns and caves scattered across the surface of the globe that are said to lead to the underworld. All across ancient Greece, Thrace and Mesopotamia, there are caverns that will take you down where you're going to. Ireland has Cracan, I don't know how to pronounce that in Irish, but never mind, which is the gate to hell, in County Roscommon, in the centre of the island. Also has Station Island in County Donegal in the far north, and County Down in the northeast. Station Island was a site for pilgrimage for knights and saints, and County Down features tunnels that led to the land of the subterranean, here's another term, Tuatha De Damon. Someone could correct me on these, but I mean, that's okay, you'll have to take me on faith. And they were a group of people who are believed to have introduced Druidism to Ireland and then went back underground. The list goes on. Germany, Italy, Siberia, India, Japan, China, Turkmenistan, Brazil, Peru, Central America, the USA. They all have something. Iceland features as the site where Verne's intrepid explorers started their journey to the centre of the earth. In fact, there's hardly a part of the earth where you're not near an entrance to the underworld. Even the Trobriand Islanders off the coast of New Guinea have a cavern called Ohukulya that leads to the underworld. One website, which is entrance to hell, entrance to the number 2, hell.co.uk, lists over 100 just in the UK, though somehow a lot of them look like someone's garage, including one called Hot Day, which is the notorious entrance from which emerged all the sick, twisted and drug-addicted pop stars of the 1970s. So I'm not quite sure how seriously you want to take that one. But there are two places that modern hole fanatics point to as the ultimate in gateways to the underground, the North and South Poles. John Sims in the early 1800s proposed polar entrances and lobbied the US Congress to get an expedition to the North Pole just to prove it. Congress rejected it, but President John Quincy Adams apparently agreed, calling the plan visionary. Adams only served one term as president. Some have suggested his support of visionary projects and claims might have proved an influence in that only serving one term. And his successor, Andrew Jackson, squashed the idea. But Adams was not the only world leader to support the pole hole notion. Among the many other claims of fascination with the occult, astrology, Nostradamus, etc., Adolf Hitler and his supporters were supposedly interested in the prospect of disappearing down a hole. In fact, so the story goes, Hitler and his followers wanted to create a race of super soldiers, an Aryan race like the Atlanteans, to rule the world. They escaped the last days of the Third Reich by going through the opening at the South Pole. And they are still there. With Nazi-designed UFOs, Nazi collaboration with the people who live in the centre of the Earth, and the possible explanation for Aryan-looking UFO pilots. Race to the pole by Nazis, mystery, adventure and excitement. It sounds like the plot of an Indiana Jones movie. And it is. Well, a story anyway. The book Indiana Jones and the Hollow Earth by Max McCoy came out in 1997, and it concerns, quote, a violent storm, a dying Arctic explorer, and a curious wooden box that makes Indy the target of fanatical Nazi agents. Inside the box are a slice of Icelandic stone with mythological powers and a journal hinting at the existence of an underground civilization near the top of the world. Indy and Ulla Turnes, a beautiful Danish scientist, set out into the Arctic wastes, racing against Nazi explorers to search for the lost city. Their quest will lead them to a massive cavern beneath the snow, portal to the legendary Ultima Thule, the key to Hitler's mad plan for world domination. So the stories of the hole in the pole match that pretty much. Now, any discussion of mad plots, eccentric characters and polar holes must include reference to one of the great adventurers and explorers of the 20th century. And here I'm referring to Rear Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd Jr. He was born in 1888 and died in 1957. Byrd was an American naval officer, a recipient of the Medal of Honor for an achievement he might never have made, a pioneering aviator and polar explorer. He was also a leading Mason, was supposedly involved with the Illuminati and their plans for a New World Order, and his early Arctic and Antarctic explorations had been financed by the Illuminati paymaster John D. Rockefeller. Now, okay, that last bit is just silly, but he did have real achievements. As a naval aviator during World War I, he developed many techniques for navigating airplanes over the open oceans, including drift indicators, the sun compass, and bubble sextants. Because of this background, he was involved in the planning of the first transatlantic flight in 1919 and made his own transatlantic flight in 1927, just 6 weeks after Charles Lindbergh. He would have been earlier, but he had problems with his plane. Now, for the record, Lindbergh was actually the 19th person to cross the Atlantic in an airplane, and the 82nd overall if you include dirigibles, or blimps. But he was the first to do the non-stop flight solo. Byrd and his co-pilot, Floyd Bennett, were awarded the Medal of Honor in 1926 for being the first people to fly over the North Pole. Ticker tape parade and presidential greeting from Calvin Coolidge notwithstanding, his achievement has been cast into doubt, with suggestions he fell short by as much as 130 kilometres, returning to base too quickly for the flight to have been successful. There are also suggestions of a doctored flight log. But of greater interest to this particular story are Byrd's supposed claims about the Hollow Earth, a hole in the South Pole and flying saucers. In 1946, Byrd was appointed officer in charge of an Antarctic developments project. His fourth Antarctic expedition was codenamed Operation High Jump, which was the largest Antarctic expedition to date and was expected to last 6 to 8 months. According to a supposed secret journal, and I don't know how everyone knows about secret journals, but it can't be that secret. This secret journal of his experiences in the Antarctic, titled The Inner Earth, My Secret Diary. On February 19th, 1947, according to the diary, Bird flew into a Sims hole near the South Pole and made contact with the race that lives inside the Earth. Naturally, this report has been covered up, but like all secrets, covered up reports, it is easily available on the net. You can even buy it on Amazon, so it's not that secret. Now, there's a lot of entries in this diary about his trip down to the pole, and I won't overburden you with all of them, but just note that he flew over it, planes came across, pilots waved at him, and then he saw green land below. Now, there shouldn't be any green land in Antarctica, but he kept going, and his navigation instruments were spinning like crazy, and the gyroscope was oscillating back and forth, he said. He altered his altitude and executed a sharp left turn to better examine the valley. It's green with either moss or a type of tight-knit grass. The light here seems different. I cannot see the sun anymore. We make another left turn, and we spot what seems to be a large animal of some kind below. It appears to be an elephant. No, it looks more like a mammoth. This is incredible, yet there it is. Decrease altitude to 1,000 feet and take binoculars to better examine the animal. It is confirmed. It is definitely a mammoth-like animal. Report this to base camp. He goes on and on with more green hills and that sort of stuff. And the countryside below ends up being more level and normal, if I may use that word. Ahead we spot what seems to be a city! Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. This is impossible. Aircraft seems light and oddly buoyant. The controls refuse to respond. My God! Exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Off our port and starboard wings are a strange type of aircraft. They are closing rapidly alongside. They are disc-shaped and have a radiant quality to them. And don't forget, this is the diary for 1947, although the book wasn't published then. They are close enough now to see the markings on them. It is a type of swastika. This is fantastic. Where are we? What has happened? I tug at the controls again. They will not respond. We are caught in an invisible vice grip of some type. Later he reports that the disc-shaped craft escorted him to a safe landing area where he was graciously greeted by emissaries from the domain of the Ariani, the inner world of the Earth. After having a rest, he and his crew were taken to meet the King and Queen of Agatha. They told him that he'd be allowed to enter Agatha because of his high moral and ethical character, which is what he described himself in the diary. They went on to say that they were worried about the safety of the planet due to the atomic bombs and other testing done above the surface by governments. After the visit, Bird and his crew were guided back to the surface of the planet. As justification for revealing these events in his secret diary, Bird says that there comes a time when the rationality of men must fade into insignificance and one must accept the inevitability of the truth, capital T, exclamation mark. I am not at liberty to disclose the following documentation at this writing, in his secret journal. Perhaps it shall never see the light of public scrutiny. You can buy it on Amazon. But I must do my duty and record here for all to read one day. In a world of greed and exploitation of certain of mankind, I can no longer suppress that which is truth. Surprisingly, there are some people who are sceptical that the secret diary is genuine. They suggest that it is the work of someone named F. Amadeo Giannini, whose family founded the Bank of Italy, which actually started in San Francisco, which later morphed into the Bank of America. Alternatively, it could be the work of a Missouri-based organisation called the Society for a Complete Earth, which first released the diary in the 1970s. In a definitive proof that the 1940 diary is a fake, the author of a Spanish website, La Teoría de la Tierra Hueca, which you can look up, which is the hollow earth theory, it does have some English language articles, points out that the dialogue between Bird and his Agarthan hosts bears a striking resemblance to that in a meeting between a Tibetan mystic and a visitor from outside in the 1937 film Lost Horizon. Unfortunately, the author firmly believes that photos of the late 60s clearly prove the hollow earth. He believes that this is the case, even though he doubts Bird's diary. And he muddies what are actually muddied waters by confusing the North Pole with the South Pole. There's not a lot of accuracy in some of these people making claims. Now, that's the end of part 1 of this story. And in part 2, we'll be looking at those photos of the hole in the poles, and then follow up later with some of the people who have spent time searching for the hole. It's an interesting story.
Hey, fellow skeptics.
Ben Radford here.
With Celestia Ward.
Your friendly host of Squaring the Strange.
A podcast that looks at topics ranging from legends, panics, and cryptids
to media myths, psychology, and folklore.
Breaking things down and picking things apart.
As we skeptics do.
We bring a few different perspectives on things.
Celestia, for example, is a witty cartoonist.
And Ben is a brilliant writer and longtime skeptical investigator.
We don't always agree.
But we have fun trying.
And we learn new things.
Join us for new topics every week or two.
Or browse our backlog of evergreen episodes.
Available on iTunes and all your podcast feeding troughs.
Squaring the Strange.
Take care, strangers.
Bye-bye.
Melbourne, beautiful one day, a bit rainy the next. I've been here for a few days, staying with my good friend Dr. Steve Roberts, and first day I was here, we were looking for air conditioning and cool drinks. Now we're looking for warmth. I'm near Flinders Street, the famous Flinders Street. The trams are rolling by, and I'm with Michelle Beckersma, who is the secretary for the Vic Skeptics.
That's right, Richard. Hello. It's nice to be here and chat to you about this.
Hey, I'm really looking forward to it because, of course, we're going to be talking about the upcoming Skepticon. And just over a month away now. The countdown's on. I hope you're getting excited.
Yeah, I'm really excited, and I am counting down, for sure. I can't wait. I loved the last one that was here in Melbourne, and I'm just thrilled that we're having another one.
Yeah.
And I can't wait.
I guess I've been lucky enough to be here in Melbourne for 3 or 4 conventions. Sadly, I missed the last Melbourne one. I couldn't make it. But I remember coming here in the early 2000s and then the mid-2000s and so on to various conventions. Always a great time. Now we have a list in front of us of some of the speakers. Oh, hello. It's all happening downtown Melbourne. What's that? A low-flying helicopter. They've found us at last.
Yeah, just a tourist helicopter.
Tourist helicopter?
Yeah, tourist helicopter.
Wow. There it goes. There it goes.
Red?
Yeah, it's red. Yeah, red and yellow, I think. So you can take helicopter rides over Melbourne.
Yeah, just further along the river down opposite South Wharf, I walked past the helicopter pad and the blades were going and it was very loud.
Wow.
So that's how I knew.
There you are, folks. If you're coming to Melbourne, you might want to take a helicopter ride over the city. But we're just having a quick look at the lineup of guests, and what an impressive lineup it is. Of course, the international guests are headed up by the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe crew. And I know a lot of the Skeptic Zone listeners listen to the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, and now it's their opportunity to meet them in person.
Yes, that's really exciting. That was my first foray into skepticism, really. Just searching for things that I thought sounded a little bit dodgy on the internet and coming across Steve Novella's blog and reading a lot of stuff on there. That was my entry, really. So I'm very excited to see them after listening to them for years.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I know a lot of people are. I'm delighted to see them because I've known the rogues now for some years, and it's always a thrill to see them. And also, of course, we've got Susan Gerbeck from Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia, and Mark Edward the Mentalist.
Yes, that's exciting as well. And I met Susan last time when she was here and was lucky to spend a day with her. And, but I've yet to meet Mark and see his seance, which I'm very much looking forward to.
It'll be a highlight. Hello, we've been invaded by birds now. It's all... there they are, under the table. It's an exciting place, Melbourne. It seems lots of things are descending from the sky to visit us at the moment. Now let's have a look at some of the Australian speakers. We've got Dr. Brad Mackay, of course, from TV, the TV doctor. He's also part of the New South Wales Skeptics Committee. Really looking forward to anything Dr. Brad has to say. He's a fantastic guy. And who else have we got?
We've got Sue Urachi and Matt Nurse, Ross Belt coming down from Queensland, and Jo Thornley, who I'm really looking forward to because of her podcast of cults that I've been listening to, and I read her book. And who doesn't love a cult?
Yeah, and in fact, I know Jo from many years back, and I interviewed her not so long ago. And after I interviewed her, I started listening to all her podcast, the cults. What's it called? It's called
Zealot,
yes. Yeah, the podcast is called Zealot. And it's very relaxed, and it's almost like they've had a few too many glasses of champagne, but it's a really interesting podcast. And we've got some local speakers, of course.
Yes, we've got Fiona Fiddler and Brendan O'Brien, who has a podcast as well, Astrophiz. Tina Hannigan, and Nicholas J. Johnson, who of course is a magician, and the Honest Conman, I believe is his moniker.
Right.
So he's very entertaining and was a must-have at the convention after emceeing at the dinner at our last one. He's actually going to present at the convention this time.
Great. I mean, skeptics and magicians have a long and happy relationship, really. Well, look at James Randi, of course, the ultimate combination of a skeptical magician, I suppose. Yeah.
That's right. And we'll have Vyom Sharma, another magician, at the dinner. Great. I think he is the MC for the dinner on Saturday night.
Fantastic. And Lee Murray. Now, Lee spoke at Skepticon last year in Sydney. Linguistics. Fascinating. Absolutely brilliant. Just one of my favourite talks, I think, of the whole thing. It's really amazing the things that we get to hear about in the skeptical movement, isn't it? And it's not just ghosts and UFOs anymore. It's more than that. Very much.
Well, I think Lee was discovered at Skepticamp, Aries Inlet. Possibly through Zola and James, who ran that, because they are speech therapists or speech pathologists, and they work in schools. So there may be some connection to Lee. I'm not entirely sure, but we did first see Lee at Skepticamp, I believe, where she was discovered.
That's great. And who else have we got there? Hannah Middleton.
Okay, well, Hannah Middleton is going to present a talk called Listening to the Universe with Gravitational Waves.
Of course, yes.
And again, one of the committee members, Lana Babakina, knows Hannah and recommended that she speak at our Monday night Skeptic Cafe, and we were blown away by Hannah, and the committee, who were mostly there, unanimously agreed that we had to secure her for Skepticon. She had a brilliant, gorgeous slideshow of presenting her work. She explained it in layman's terms so that we could all understand it. And she's also the editor of LIGO magazine that you can download online. Okay. So very fascinating.
That's fantastic. Now, look, there'll probably be other people along at the convention you can chat to, interesting people. There's also a medical panel headed up by Ken Harvey. Ken Harvey, of course, a well-known, active skeptic activist.
Very much so, with his whack-a-mole projects.
Yes. I'll get our friend Steve Roberts, who's just about to dive, as we are, all about to dive into our lovely coffee here on a cool Melbourne day, to take the photograph, the official photograph of this interview, and I'll put that up. So, folks, if you're listening to this on your Apple device, the chapters that come up will have an image and you can see us chatting. There we are. Click, click. Thank you, Steve. Well, hello. As I destroy the table behind me, Michelle, thank you so much for this quick catch-up. It's really exciting. And folks, if you haven't got your ticket for Skepticon yet, don't delay any longer. Of course, the website is skepticon.org.au. Get all the information about the speakers. You can buy your tickets straight away. And we look forward to seeing you in a very few number of weeks.
Yes, so it all takes off with trivia night on the Thursday, which is just an informal fundraiser for us at the Clyde Hotel. And then we have our meet and greet at the Dan O'Connell Hotel on Friday night, where convention ticket holders can attend and just mingle with the speakers, the committee, each other. That's going to be a really fun night. Yeah. Then, of course, the 2 main days of the convention itself.
Excellent. And folks, don't forget too that if you come along to Skepticon, you will probably be interviewed by Maynard, because he likes to interview just about everybody. Well, as the sun tries to peek through Flinders Street, above Flinders Street station there, and the trams are rolling by, Michelle Bickersmar, thank you very much.
Thanks, Richard. You're most welcome, and can't wait to see you there.
Hey guys, this is Bob Novella from the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. We are so excited to come to Australia. I love Australia, I love the people, but I'm really coming down for the coffee.
Hallo aan alle Nederlandse luisteraars. Op dit moment bent u aan het luisteren naar de Skeptic Zone. Voor wetenschap en kritisch nadenken. Voor meer informatie ga naar www.skepticzone.tv.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. Now it's come to my attention in the last week that there is a petition doing the rounds, one of these online petitions, to help bring back a TV show I enjoyed watching. It was called The Checkout. Now, technically, The Checkout is on hiatus. And I don't know what that means, but it hasn't come back to our screens in over a year. This is an Australian show all about consumer affairs. What are your rights? But it was much admired in the skeptical community because of its very strong stand against things like quackery in pharmacy and calling out homeopathy for the nonsense that it is. Now, I will link to that petition in the show notes. If you're in Australia and you enjoyed watching The Checkout, it might be worth signing this petition, and hopefully the show can come back. I'll also link in this week's show notes to one of the videos from The Checkout, which really rips into pharmacies in Australia for selling nonsense. And sadly, most pharmacies stock quackery. I'm also very excited about the upcoming Skepticon in Melbourne. I'll be there with Maynard running around doing interviews, and I think the good people at the Victorian Skeptics will put me to other work while I'm down there. There's a good chance, folks, a very good chance that if you come along to Skepticon, you'll be interviewed for the Skeptic Zone podcast. And if you see me or Maynard running around with microphones, say hello. A big thank you, a big shout out, as ever, to those wonderful people, wonderful listeners who support the Skeptic Zone financially, PayPal or Patreon at skepticzone.tv. And it can only be a couple of dollars a week, but you know what? If enough people do it, it adds up and means the show can keep going. And what's a couple of dollars a week? What's $3? What's $5 a week? It's money you'll never miss, but collectively it means a lot here at the Skeptic Zone. But for this week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for show notes, contacts, and to access the back catalogue of episodes going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone podcast on Twitter @SkepticZone, visit our Facebook page, or leave a review on iTunes. You can also support the Skeptic Zone via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone podcast is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian skeptics or any other skeptical organisation.